everyone, I am Priyanka Wilson and welcome to GS's course series of Decoding the UPSC Syllabus with macro topic detailing. This is the second part of Decoding the History Syllabus series. In this video, Rashid sir will decode the syllabus of world history. So guys, stay tuned for the next videos in this series, and if you like this video, so please like, share and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for regular updates. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Rashid and today we'll discuss about the syllabus of world history for general studies mentioned in paper 1 of mains examination. This topic is only for mains examination, not included in your preliminary syllabus. So we'll discuss from perspective basis the world history syllabus that is mentioned in paper 1 of general studies. Clear? The topics mentioned under world history are industrial revolution, world wars, redrawal of national boundaries, colonization, decolonization, and political philosophies like communism, capitalism, socialism, their forms and effects on society. Clear? First of all, we'll discuss about industrial revolution. Just understand, clear? By the middle of 18th century, rapid growth in the factory system began to take place first in England, and that ultimately culminated into rapid changes with long-term consequences to be rightly termed as industrial revolution. This revolution first occurred in England rather than other countries of Europe. The reasons were that in England, abundant amount of resources in the form of coal and iron were available. More importantly, capitalist as an ideology was already prevalent there, and capitalist class was ready to invest the surplus capital to maximize the profit by promoting factory system. Moreover, at the same time that England by this time started to colonize different parts of the world, they brought large number of people and slaves, and their slaves were employed in factories to work for n number of hours without any major wages. Clear? More importantly, a series of scientific inventions and discoveries took place in England that resulted into industrial revolution. Scientific invention discoveries included the invention of steam engine. At the same time, is the development or invention of cotton gin. These all resulted into development of cotton industry and other industries that resulted into rapid growth of industrialization in England. Clear? Industrialization had long-term consequences. After England, other countries like Germany, France, Russia, and even Japan in Asia began industrialization. But one major negative consequence was that when these countries began to go for industrialization, they also went to control large number of colonies in different parts of Asia and Africa to take resources, both men and material. That intensified the race for imperialism and colonialism, especially between England, France and Germany, and that ultimately culminated into a major conflict among these European powers termed as the First World War. The First World War took place in the year 1914 among European powers, and it continued for 4 years till 1918. And after 1918, when First World War came to an end with defeat of Germany and other major countries, it resulted into peace conferences. The peace conferences were convened at Paris, where several treaties were signed. The most humiliating treaty, that is Treaty of Versailles, was imposed upon Germany, the defeated power. But at the same time, during these peace treaties, redrawal of national boundaries took place, which is also included in our syllabus. And in this redrawal of national boundaries, when several areas were taken away, based on racial consideration, two major countries came into being after First World War. These countries were Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. Clear? After the end of First World War, Germany was paralyzed altogether. Italy was not properly rewarded, even though it was victorious with victorious powers in First World War. That is why after First World War, a very prominent ideology emerged in Italy and Germany known as fascist ideology. This ideology promotes national sentiment up to the extreme, whereby the interests of other nations are to be compromised and democratic system has to be suppressed altogether, because they believe in totalitarian state or dictatorship. Fascism in Italy was promoted by Mussolini, and Nazism or fascist version was promoted in Germany by Adolf Hitler. Clear? And Adolf Hitler's aggressive policy only culminated into Second World War to a large extent. Second World War War took place in the year 1939, went on for 6 years, from 1939 till 1945. And in this World War, again, Germany got defeated, ultimately due to the participation of United States at this time. And with the defeat of Germany's Second World War came to an end in 1945. After the end of World War, United Nations came into being to prevent the occurrence of any such war in coming future. At the same time, after the end of Second World War only, United Nations began to realize that colonization was a major factor for First and Second World War. Therefore, United Nations began to support decolonization. Large number of areas began to be decolonized, including Malay Peninsula in Southeast Asia. Countries like India and other countries also began to be liberated in African continent as well, in order to ensure peace and stability in coming time. All these developments are mentioned in world history. Apart from this, political philosophies like communism, socialism, and capitalism are also mentioned. The philosophy of capitalism emerged first of all in England, whereby capitalist class believed that resources are to be properly utilized rather than equitably distributed to maximize profit. But capitalism resulted into class struggle between two important communities, that is, with surplus class product and without any major resources. This differentiation classes resulted into another ideology known as socialist ideology. And socialist ideology believes to establish complete equality through state control, whereby resources are to be taken away from the capitalist class and distributed among the other common section. The most important socialist thinker, Karl Marx, gave version of scientific socialism, whereby he highlighted class struggle. He highlighted the classes of bourgeoisie and proletariat, bourgeoisie indicating the surplus group class and proletariat indicating the working class. At the same time, Karl Marx also made it clear that through revolutions, equality will be established, as class of haves and have-nots will come at loggerheads for resource distribution. At the same time, communism is another important philosophy that emerged. After socialism, it was realized that if there is perfect equality of resources, there is no need to have a state. So a stage will come with highest state of socialism when state will wither away or come to an end. And a stateless society based on equality will come into being, which is termed as communist philosophy. This was highlighted during all communist revolutions, including China, but practically speaking, a stateless society has never come into being. So communist ideology remains to be a bookish ideology in contrast to socialist ideology, which has got its practical orientation. These are major topics of the world history. Since it is mentioned only in mains examination, we'll look into some questions asked in mains examination from these topics in the previous year. Clear? First, from Industrial Revolution. Why did the Industrial Revolution first occur in England? Industrial Revolution first occurred in England because of resources, because of the capitalist class, and at the same time series of scientific inventions and discoveries. Discuss the quality of life of the people there during the industrialization. Initially, quality of life of people was better, but with industrialization, gradual beginning of industrialization, large number of people were forced to work for large number of hours. Their conditions became pathetic, and these people moved from rural to urban areas to work in factories. They were forced to stay in slums under unhygienic conditions, and therefore the condition became pathetic. So the capitalist class enjoyed all luxury, but at the same time the working class suffered from basic amenities as well. How does it compare with that in India at present? Clear? India at present, because at that time when industrialization was taking place in England began to witness rapid growth and development. But industrialization to a large extent started in India only after India's independence through era of economic planning. And thereafter, India started to develop on industrial front. But at the same time, when India began to promote industrial front, India through its constitution emphasized on welfare state, whereby resources were to be distributed equitably to ensure welfare orientation. This is quite in contrast with industrialization that took place in England during 18th and 19th centuries. Clear? We'll move on to another question asked in mains examination. World War and World War II. There arose a serious challenge to the democratic state system between the two world wars. Evaluate the statement. As we had discussed, that after the end of World War I, Germany was paralyzed on every front through Treaty of Versailles. Even Even Italy was not given proper treatment, even though it was with victorious powers in First World War. Therefore, in both these countries, sense of extreme nationalism began to prevail, which is termed as fascism. And these fascist leaders, that is Mussolini in Italy and Hitler in Germany, began to suppress all democratic system as they believed strongly in establishing dictatorship and totalitarian state. The biggest example of suppressing the democratic system between the two world wars was suppressing the democratic system in Spain from 1936 to 1939. Spain had a democratically elected government, but Hitler and Mussolini wanted such government, and they went on to depose that democratically elected leader and to establish communism there or dictatorship there. This was basically witnessed by all major powers like the United States and France, but they could not do anything. That is why it is said that a Spanish Civil War under Napoleon, under Hitler and Mussolini was a kind of dress rehearsal for Second World War. So world between two world wars witnessed challenge to the democratic system, primarily due to the rise of fascist ideology, especially in Italy and Germany. Asked in 2021. Now, coming 2015, there was a question asked, to what extent can Germany be held responsible for causing the two world wars? To a large extent, Germany can be held responsible for two world wars. The reason is that Germany under Adolf Hitler began to promote fascist ideology through the version of Nazism, began to attack major countries, and at the same time, it resulted into reconfiguration of world altogether, and this resulted to Second World War. But again, not only Hitler and not only Germany was responsible for Second World War, there were other factors also. Other factors were that all major powers like Britain, France, and United States, they never went on to stop Hitler when he was following aggressive policy. Rather, they went on to appease Hitler, and policy of appeasement played a major role as Hitler went from one confidence level to another confidence level that resulted into Second World War. This was policy of appeasement. Another major factor responsible for Second World War was the failure of an international body established after First World War in form of the League of Nations. League of Nations from the very beginning remained to be a weak organization as United States never joined this organization, and at the same time countries left this organization at their own whims and fancies. Even Hitler and at the same time fascist powers like Germany, Italy and Japan left this organization without caring much. Therefore, League of Nations could not prevent the occurrence of another war, that is the Second World War. All these factors combined together resulted into the Second World War. So Germany was largely responsible, but Germany alone cannot be held responsible for the Second World War by the middle of the 20th century. Second question asked in 2015. Now we'll move on to another question from different topic, that is decolonization. Colonization, decolonization is another topic in general studies history syllabus from world history. What problems were germane to the decolonization problem of process of Malay Peninsula 2017? Malay Peninsula with respect to colonization refers to major countries, that is Singapore and Malaysia. Clear? Singapore and Malaysia were major parts of British Malaya. That is, British established their colonial rule over this Malay Peninsula of Singapore and Malaysia. Clear? But when Second World War came to an end, decolonization began to be promoted by United Nations, and colonial powers began to transfer power to the native people in Asia and Africa. Therefore, British also decided to hand over the power to the native people of Malay Peninsula. But what problems were germane? What problems were applicable at that time, clear, to the decolonization of Malay Peninsula? The problems were that during the course of Second World War, infrastructure of Malay Peninsula got totally destroyed. Even road networks got totally destroyed, and therefore handing over power was not an easy thing. At the same time, in the course of Second World War, Malay Peninsula was known only for one thing, to earn foreign exchange, and that was rubber plantation. But even rubber plantation got abruptly affected during the Second World War. All these became major problems, especially on fiscal front, to transfer power to Malay Peninsula. Therefore, largely international community came forward to ensure the transfer of power to Malay Peninsula by promoting fiscal support and financial support to the people of Singapore and Malaysia. This is the question asked in 2017 from the process of decolonization. Clear? So all these are major topics and major questions which has been asked in UPSC examination from world history. This topic also needs to be prepared. This topic also needs to be prepared for your mains examination from GS. We'll be covering all these areas and we'll be discussing all these questions, even providing all model answers as well, to have comprehensive coverage of world history for General Studies Paper 1. Thank you and all the best.